So
In a
that
moment
more
here
than
on
a million
GB
is not...
News, Dewbs Co. But first, let's bring you up to date with the latest news headlines this hour. And the top story on GB News, more than 1 million NHS staff in England will receive a 5% pay rise. Health unions, representing the majority of NHS workers, have recommended that a revised pay offer made by the government should be accepted. Members of the NHS Staff Council said the unions agreed to the deal for staff, which includes all NHS workers apart from doctors, dentists and senior managers. The Royal College of Nursing and Unite, however, voted against the pay deal. The Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, says the government will implement the pay rise for NHS workers and is urging the remaining unions to accept the offer.
It's a good day for NHS staff, but it's also a good day for patients. It will allow us to move forward. Now the NHS Staff Council has ratified this deal. It's been accepted by the majority of the NHS Staff Council, and we can now move forward, focus together on the patients, and also ensure that staff get the pay rise much sooner than would have been the case under the pay review body process.
Well, the Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the issue still isn't resolved.
Well, what this shows is that this whole load of industrial action was absolutely avoidable if the government had have done what Labour said should have happened months ago, and that is get round the table and negotiate. But it is also a sign of how angry nurses and indeed junior doctors are with this government, that the threat of industrial action continues even after today.
Consumer news and food inflation went up to another record high in April, but lower prices are on the horizon. That's according to the British Retail Consortium. Grocery prices rose by 15.7% last month. That's the biggest annual increase in records going back almost 2 decades. The figures also show that prices for non-food items slowed down because of spring discounts on clothing and furniture. And staying with consumer news, house prices showed signs of stabilising last month, according to mortgage lender Nationwide. The price of a home rose by 0.5% after falling for the past 7 months. Compared to April last year, the average house price was down 2.7%. A nurse accused of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 10 others says her whole world stopped when she was blamed for their deaths. 33-year-old Lucy Letby is on trial for the offences alleged to have taken place between June 2015 and June 2016. Giving evidence for the first time, Letby said she thought of killing herself because of the allegations. The prosecutions called Letby a constant, malevolent presence at the neonatal unit of the Countess of Chester Hospital. She denies the charges. Former US President Donald Trump is in Turnberry in Scotland visiting one of his golf resorts. Yesterday, he opened a new course named after his late mother at the Meany Estate near Aberdeen. His trip coincided with a visit to the UK last week by one of his likely rivals for the 2024 Republican nomination, Ron DeSantis. Well, tomorrow night, in a world exclusive, Nigel Farage interviews Donald Trump from his golf estate in Turnberry in Scotland. You can watch it on GB News tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Teachers across England are striking today in an ongoing dispute over pay, with hundreds of people marching outside the Department of Education. In April, members of the National Education Union overwhelmingly rejected a pay offer. The NEU, along with 3 other teaching unions, has rejected an offer which included a £1,000 one-off payment and a 4.3% pay rise for most staff in September. Today's walkout is the 5th undertaken by educators this year, causing pupils major disruptions. Labour MP for Leeds East, Richard Bergen, says striking is a last resort.
We're seeing is people fighting back because they've got no choice. And there are ways to fund this. For example, just equalising capital gains tax with income tax, which used to be the case even for a period under Thatcher's government in the 80s, would raise more than enough money to give every single public sector worker in this country an inflation matching pay rise. So the money is there. The government doesn't seem to have the right priorities because the government should be putting our public services and working people across this country first, and I'm afraid they're not.
The oil giant BP is reporting stronger than expected profits in the first 3 months of 2023, reaching close to £4 billion. The result was a reduction from the £4.96 billion that BP made in the same quarter last year, but well ahead of the £3.44 billion analysts had expected them to make. Now, Princess Anne says she believes King Charles will not be changed by his new role as monarch. Talking with the Canadian broadcaster CBC ahead of the King's coronation, I beg your pardon, Princess Anne said the King, like the rest of the family, is committed to public service. But the Princess Royal argued that slimming down the royal family didn't sound like a good idea in response to reports the King may reduce the number of working royals.
Well, you know what you're getting because he's been practising for a bit. And I don't think he'll change. He is committed to his own level of service, and that will remain true.
Well, King Charles's coronation is expected to provide a £120 million boost to pubs across the UK. The British Beer and Pub Association says local pubs and breweries are planning to pour 62 million pints over the bank holiday weekend. Pubs are also going to be allowed to stay open until 1 o'clock in the morning. And His Majesty the King and the Queen Consort have met with Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer today, a reception being held at the Palace of Westminster ahead of His Majesty's coronation. Along with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, the monarch also met with other members of Parliament. You're with GB News, more news as it happens. Now, Dewbs Co.
Well, hello there. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs Co. We're live from our GB News studio. Look at this, everybody, outside of Buckingham Palace. What an absolute treat for us all tonight coming up. Yes, I definitely want to talk about the monarchy, not least because Princess Anne says that a slimmed-down royal family doesn't sound like a good idea. What do you reckon? Does the monarchy need to be reformed to survive or not? And moving on to other matters, Keir Starmer has ditched yet another one of his pledges today. This time to abolish university tuition fees. What do you make to all this? Do you think we should have free universities? Do you think degrees are worth the money spent on them? And another day and another oil giant releasing their profits, this time BP. Are you sitting down? Apparently $5 billion in the first 3 months of the year. You know the drill by now, don't you? We go around the same circles. Do we need to have tougher windfall tax? If so, please just tell me how much you actually want these companies to pay in tax. Before we get into it all, though, I will introduce the panel that's keeping me company. Quinton Letts, a new face on this show, political sketch writer for The Times, and alongside him as well, John McTernan, the political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair. What a night to be making your debut.
Sure, well, what a place to be.
I know.
It's better than your normal studio.
You are? What are you saying about my normal studio?
It's a bit less dusty.
They're both as good as each other. Have you got your thermals on, chaps?
Yes.
Have you?
Ooh. Didn't need to know that.
He looked very happy and confident there, sharing his undies with the nation. I've got mine on. I've got to be honest, I'm feeling quite hot now. I was watching Eamon Holmes this morning. He looked absolutely freezing cold, and I thought, I'm not having any of that. I'm getting myself warm. I'm regretting my choice of thermals tonight. I could tell you, because the sun is shining. It's a beautiful night out here live in Buckingham Palace. You know the drill as well, don't you, on this show? It's not just about us three. It is very much about you guys at home as well. What is on your mind tonight? Not just the monarchy, not just the coronation, but all the other matters as well. Get in touch the usual ways. GBVIEWS at gbnews.uk is how you email me, or you can tweet me at Dewbs Co at GB News. Anyway, here we are, and as I'm saying, it's a lovely night for it. I'm so pleased it's not raining. It's lively. There's been campers outside the Mall. They're not messing around. They've been there, or they will be there for days by the time the coronation procession actually passes them. So we've been out and about chatting to them. We've been asking them, how far have they come?
It's fantastic. I mean, to see Charles from the beginning to this point, I've always admired him.
and the amount of people here is incredible.
Brought the uncle and auntie to London today, just to see the sights really, but they ended up seeing the King.
That's right. We live in Texas. We don't have a king, but you got one, and we really miss the Queen. I know. I love that lady. She was good, wasn't she?
She was the best, mate. Yeah.
That's dedication for you, isn't it? Absolutely love it. We're speaking to one family as well. They've got a little kid with them, and he's brought a little rock. It was his first time, he says, his rock has ever seen anything like the goings-on here at Buckingham Palace. Bless him. Let's get stuck straight in then and talk about the monarchy, shall we? It's been Princess Anne who's been speaking out today, isn't it? Apparently she's not convinced of her brother's plan for a slimmed-down monarchy. She says she's not sure if it's a good idea. The King is widely reported to want to reduce the number of working royals and cut back on royal staffing. Let's have a little listen, shall we?
Oh, I think the slim down was said in a day when there were a few more people around to make that seem like a justifiable comment.
The world changes a bit.
It changes a bit. I mean, it doesn't sound like a good idea from where I'm standing, I have to say.
I'm sure it does
I'm not quite sure what else, we can do.
There you go. One of my viewers has just got in touch, by the way, saying he doesn't want underwear chat whilst having his tea.
Quite right.
It's a bit too exciting. All I can say to you is, Nigel, if John McTernan's underwear chat is enough to excite people over their tea, I've got no further comment to make on that, so I shall just move on. Yes, I shall just move on. The monarchy, I'll start with you, Quinton. Do you think it needs to be slimmed down?
Are we sure that the Princess Royal is going to turn up at the coronation on Saturday, because it clashes with the badminton horse trials, and I'm not sure that's. But she's my favourite member of the royal family. She's so direct, you wouldn't dare disagree with her, so I'm not going to. And I think it's probably gone. It has already started this slimming down process. They've got rid of pretty much of Prince Andrew. A nation mourns, and Harry and Meghan are off the ranch.
I mourn.
I'm pleased about that. And I saw today at the Palace of Westminster, I saw the Queen, Camilla, turned up. And she didn't turn up at the same time as the King, and she came in her own car. And it was a filthy old Audi. So I think that this cost-cutting has gone far enough. It was sort of, it looked like a sales rep's car. I thought she was going to produce her samples from the boot. And I'm not sure that the nation wants a really trimmed back one. They don't want heavy spending, they don't want exaggerated spending, they don't want hypocritical spending, but I don't think they want cheese paring.
John, your thoughts?
I think I'd like to see a hard-working royal family. It will be a slimmer royal family because there's fewer children, and one's in exile.
You're unhappy about that, aren't you?
I am unhappy about that. I'd like to.
You're a Harry lover.
I'm a Meghan lover.
You're not.
And a Harry liker. No, look, I think the royal family do a great job. A constitutional monarchy is the right settlement for the UK. Far rather have King Charles than President Trump. Or President Eamon de Valera, like they had in Ireland for so long, for decades. And I think a royal family that were focused on promoting the country, promoting industry, promoting our services, things like that. I think that would actually be quite good. So I'm probably a bit puritanical and Calvinist about it, harder working and a bit smaller.
I think they do work quite hard, though, don't they?
Yeah, what would you have them do? You'd be whipping them, get more hours.
Do more getting out and promoting global Britain.
I think the Princess Royal does about 500 events.
She's a great charity patron. I think she's well respected by all the people in the charity.
The new Duke of Edinburgh does quite a lot, doesn't he? I think they work pretty hard.
Not hard enough for John.
Not hard enough for me.
Harry and Meghan, they're your favourites?
I know.
Look at him. He's backtracking now. He's rowing back on his words now.
No. I was going to say the reason why do I like them? I like them because they are a 21st century couple. Harry's a man trying to talk about his feelings, which is really important because men do need to talk a bit more about things. Meghan is, she's mixed race.
He's airing his dirty laundry,
she's mixed race, and she's part of the nature of the modern world, and for them to be slightly exiled from the family, I think that's bad.
The trouble with being fashionable, though, is that you can go out of fashion quite quickly. Fashion is a terrible master because you have to keep up with it, and sure as anything happens, they will fall out of fashion, and then we'll think, well, what was the point of them? I think an unfashionable monarchy is more enduring.
Yeah, I think they're actually, it's not the fashionable, the celebrities, and the thing is that many things in our society become integrated with celebrity. Politics has, the royalty has, and I think celebrities in a way don't ever go out of fashion. They have a narrative arc to their lives, they have triumphs, they have terrible tragedies, but actually, like soap stars, they stay around. The story always keeps them around, they keep being reinvented. And I think royalty does add to the texture of life, the gaiety of life. It's part of Britain, and I wouldn't want to see the back of it. And missing Harry and Meghan, you miss some of the characters.
Do you? Will you be sitting at home thinking to yourself, I'm really missing the characters that are Harry and Meghan? And will you be sitting there thinking, thank goodness, obviously he's coming, but she is not? Do you think that is the right move? Do you think it's the right move for her not to come, by the way, Meghan?
Yes, I do. I think she'd be booed. I'm really sorry about Meghan, because I really liked her at first. And I thought she was some of those things that John was saying. She was modern, fresh, and she was rather invigorating in some ways. But then, I don't know, little me took over a bit too much. And then you had the sheer hypocrisy about calling for, joining the sort of global warming campaign and then using private jets. I just thought it was untenable.
And you talk about celebrity. We're getting a bit more information now about the guest list and stuff for the coronation. So people like Ant and Dec will be in attendance. Do you think that's the right move?
Well, Ant and Dec are some of the most popular and mainstream figures in British entertainment. I mean, I think it's absolutely right that they're there. I mean, it could actually be produced by Ant and Dec, couldn't it, the coronation? That'd be a show I'd like to see.
But if you're trying to make things slim down, if you're trying to slim things down, if you're trying to demonstrate, look at us, we're all about effective tax spending and all the rest of it. We're not going to be frivolous with our cash. Yes, I know the connection between Ant and Dec. It's to do with the Prince's Trust and all the rest of it. But some of these invitees, they raise eyebrows to me. I think
it's a bit like the honours list. You've got to have a sprinkling. Little sprinkling, imagine. So the Duke of Dec and the Earl of Ant, they will undoubtedly become one day. It's no bad thing to have one or two like that. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want the whole of. You don't want Sir Alan Sugar there.
Why not?
Oh no, I think there's a limit to one's levels of endurance. But I think a little bit of a
don't you
little
talk about my former boss. He's probably done.
I forgot about that.
He's probably done an awful lot for Enterprise and getting people involved in business.
Oh, he's a frightful little square.
All kinds of representatives of the Commonwealth are going to be here as well.
If you watch him. Sorry, John, he's having a go at my boss. I'm listening to him.
I know, you should always defend your boss. No, your boss is always your
boss. Former boss, anyway, go on.
But anyway, there's all kinds of representatives going to be coming here from the Commonwealth, and that is a great thing to see. You know, King Charles, as the head of the Commonwealth, it's a great institution, and to see that connection.
What about Ursula von der Leyen? Do you think that
she's quite an important. I mean,
she's a really important figure.
It's not just her. We're having the other two presidents of the European
but we're trying
Union
to
as well.
From the EU.
They have three of them.
We're still going on our holidays to the European Union. We still trade with the European Union. It's still our biggest single market that we export into.
Hey, if you had your way, we'd be back in there, John, wouldn't we?
We would definitely be back in there.
Joe Biden's not coming. His wife, Jill, she's standing in his place.
Yeah, good for her. She's jolly smart.
I mean, America was established in the face of the monarchy.
What? The wife turns up.
If my husband got invited, well, I don't have a husband actually. There's no man stupid enough. But if I did have a husband,
sits back advert.
And
you can't use the television to proclaim your availability.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm merely saying I'm not married. What I'm saying, if I had, I don't want to marry you.
An appeal to the nation.
Hashtag me too. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I don't want to marry him either. You've made me lose my train. Oh yes, what I'm saying is, if my husband got invited somewhere and he couldn't make it, I wouldn't expect him to kind of almost deputise using me. Oh, I can't make it, but you could have Michelle instead. I
think she's a very gracious
Michelle and the second Dewberry.
Yeah, Michelle and the second. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying. Adrian says, I totally agree with your guest, John. That's quite a first. He says, I love all the royal family. Unites everyone. Cannot wait for the coronation. David says, do not slim the monarchy down. Get rid of it altogether. Really? What would you put in its place then? That's what I found fascinating. What would you put? Because one of the things that Princess Anne was saying is about stability and continuity. And what she was saying, obviously, you have 5-year parliaments, they come and they go, but the royal family provide a stability.
They do. And that is the argument for them.
Yeah. Do you think that we need that stability, though, in a changing world?
Well, we certainly needed it last autumn, didn't we? I mean, they were quite handy then.
Well, what do you guys make to that? Because I have to say, for as many of you are saying that you're getting into the coronation, that you're excited about it, I've equally got people saying, do away. But you need to tell me, if you're someone that's saying, do away with the royals, who would you replace them with?
President Tony
Gavin
Blair.
Says,
it's got a ring, hasn't it?
I could have...
President Cherie.
Hey, Tony Blair's actually been invited, hasn't he, as well?
He's a Garter Knight.
President Cherie.
One of my viewers says I could have bet my mortgage on John, like in Harry and Meghan. There you go. I hope you didn't put your actual money down on it. Right, I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'll have some more of your feedback. What do you make to all of this in the background? I think it's absolutely beautiful.
It's a great day,
are you excited about the coronation? He's having a great time. He's sat next to us outside of Buckingham Palace. Are you having a great time? Are you getting into it? Also, after the break as well, Keir Starmer He's basically breaking one of his pledges, this time university fees. Do you think university should be free? Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and look at us, everybody. We are live outside of Buckingham Palace tonight. What a treat. Michael's been in touch saying, Michelle, you look like a royal princess tonight in your dress outside the palace. Thank you very much. I'll take that, so I will. Quinton Lex is a political sketch writer for The Times. He keeps me company, as does John McTernan, political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair. Your friends have been getting in touch tonight. Susan says it's lovely to see Quinton Lex on your show. I've missed him. Can you have him again?
Thank you, Susan.
We'll make that decision about whether or not he's invited again at the end of this show. Don't peak too early. It might go downhill, Susan. Keith as well says, welcome to GB News, Quinton. He was hoping that you were going to pop up one of these days.
Oh, well, there you go.
Are they your friends and family?
Yeah, they
are. Giving them a little shout out.
Slip them the 10-bob note later.
Yes. Right, so let's move on to other matters. Keir Starmer, he's not even in office yet, is he? But there's been lots of focus on potential U-turns now. We've been looking at a pledge to scrap university tuition fees now if he forms a government. Initially, of course, you'll remember that he said that basically it would keep the promise that was first put forward by Jeremy Corbyn, but now says that the economic climate basically just isn't right. John, if my memory serves me correctly, you was on my show a few weeks ago and you were saying to me that you thought 75%
was a good target.
Was a good target to get to university. I said I thought you was talking bonkers. Have you come to your senses since?
No, 75% is still my...
Right, so you
my
still
number
stand...
is one I agree with David Willits. So it's me and Lord Willits. It's a cross-party arrangement.
So 75% should be going to university in John's mind. Let's talk about this whole notion then of tuition fees. Do you think basically it should be free to go to university?
No, you can't. You can't open university to as many people as need it and would benefit from it if it was free. You have to have a fee structure of some form. You have to balance the benefits of the country and the benefits of the individual. But £9,000 is just too much, and you can tell it's too much because more than half of people who've got student loans, even the government says now, are never going to pay them back. And so the system is just ridiculous.
But why are they not going to pay it back? Because they're not going to reach the earnings.
They're not going to earn enough money.
Now let's push that forward then. Why are they not going to earn enough money? Because degrees have become devalued, because they are 10 a penny, and when if you get your wish of even more people going, that's going to be even worse.
Because they've got extortionate interest on them. It's the most extortionate interest anybody charges at the moment, I think.
Quinton, your thoughts?
I've got two children who've been sort of through university and one who's still there, and I'm dubious about the value of the courses that certainly they have experienced. I would prefer to see slightly cheaper universities for fewer people. I prefer, funnily enough, to make universities more elitist and i.e. have fewer people going there and have them cheaper, but have them really for people who needed to go to university intellectually and professionally.
Yeah, like a brain surgeon. I do not want anyone operating on me without a university degree and qualifications.
Yeah.
But your standard, your professions now, so your policing, your nursing, all of these kind of professions that now you have to have a degree to get into. Yeah. I think that's a little bit pointless.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have a university degree, say, to be a primary school teacher, but that is how it's being presented now. Ditto to be a nurse. I mean, I know a kid who's got a university degree who's going to go and work behind a desk at a car hire company. I don't think that's necessary. And I think it's rather dispiriting.
I'm guessing that's not because he studied something to do with cars or desks or whatever, but because he can't get into his chosen profession, right?
That's right. And, it seems to me rather dispiriting. It's also, they'd probably learn more about life if they went and worked in those university years.
And don't you, I mean, we've kind of had this conversation. I worry so much that when you set these kind of, just these targets, let's push more education, let's get more people into university, then it just becomes this almost kind of token status. Yes, my child's got a degree or whatever. Any employer then starts just adding the word 2-1 or above on the bottom of all of their job applications. It means absolutely nothing.
Oh, look, I think the nature of the modern labour market, we've seen it with the introduction of AI into things, is that more and more simple skills, anything that can be automated gets automated. Things are being automated in lots of areas, and that what you need is more creativity, more human skills, more of the interactive skills. And I think that for people to spend the 3 years from being 18 to 21 in university, or maybe 2 years, a 2-year degree could definitely be, I think, done. A 2-year degree could be cheaper and more productive. Use more. I think there's a maturing and there's a learning, and I don't think, people don't end up doing the profession, filling the profession that they did the degree in. I studied 7th century Irish at university, and I became Tony Blair's political secretary.
Right.
So sometimes there's a big disconnect between what you study and what you end up doing.
And let's talk.
So you studied Irish and you wrote double Dutch.
Oh.
Well, let's.
But actually, funnily,
I nearly added a fair sentence there. It wasn't
one of the
fine
reasons,
one, so
but one of the reasons I'm sceptical about the need for so many kids to go to university is that, funny, I think the Blair government did tremendous things in schools, and I think our schools are much better than they used to be.
And people stay on longer now too.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, the teachers
nobody
don't
leaves at
think that,
16.
do they? Hence, they're out on the streets saying it's not just about pay, but it's about conditions.
That's not the Blair years. That's been the Tory years. There.
Well, let's talk about STARMER then, shall we? Because he's getting a bit of criticism, basically, for flip-flop U-turning. Do you think it's justified?
Well, the way this policy was raise corporation tax. We're going to come on to business tax a bit later. Raise corporation tax and spend that money on getting rid of university fees. Now, that was a mad Corbynite policy, but it did have a logic to it. That corporation tax has been raised by Rishi, and it's being used to pay down the debt. So the tax is gone. We can't raise the corporation tax. So Keir's been quite pragmatic. Like, if we don't have the tax, we can't do that. We'll have to do something different. And I think they're looking for a different settlement.
Tax has just increased, though.
No. So Rishi's done the tax raising that Jeremy Corbyn wants to do.
Right.
So the tax raise has been done.
I think Starmer's right. Starmer's right to cancel this policy. It was never a good policy. It was never going to be possible economically to give everyone a free university.
Equitable. It's not an equitable.
It just wasn't going to work. So I mean, this happens with opposition leaders come into contact with reality the closer they get to possible power.
And they start throwing stuff off the boat.
And George Osborne said the other day in a Westminster committee, I said one thing in opposition, and as soon as I got into power, I did something else.
But
they all do it.
I've got a good memory tonight. I don't know what's happening. I've obviously had my coffee, but I can remember you talk about equitable taxes and all the rest of it. I remember you on my programme not that long ago saying that if you've grafted, you've bought a house, and now you've got a spare bedroom in your privately owned property, everybody, you reckon that you should tax that.
I was then. Look, you've got a great memory, but I say memorable things clearly.
Well, you say things. You say things. There's a word associated to that. Memorable is a right word. Yes.
We do need more taxation on the unearned wealth in Britain, and a bedroom tax for the private sector.
That's what he wanted to do. Quinton, he wanted to tax spare bedrooms of a private property.
One of life's natural shoplifters. He wants to go around taking money out of people.
Pickpocketer rather than shoplifter. Come on.
They get enough of our money, and I want to keep more of it myself, thank you. I think I can spend it better, my money, than some idiot minister of the government.
Bernard says all education should be free, and if our taxes can subsidise civil servant pensions, then they could subsidise our kids' education. Why would you want, I don't know, your working class lad that's left school as young as he could and got into an apprenticeship, why should he have to fund the tuition fees of someone that wants to do, I don't know, whatever random subject at university? Well, I can be honest, I nearly said theology, but because of your story that your child was studying that, I decided not to be rude, so I decided to say random subject rather than making it personal.
Doesn't want to be rude.
David says, I do not believe university fees should be free.
The princess coming out.
If it was free, there would be a free-for-all, and we simply couldn't afford it. Yeah. David says having to pay fees makes people perhaps consider whether or not university is right for them. Yeah. What I would try and do is create some form of scheme so that when you've got the professions that we need in our society, I don't know, your doctors, your nurses, whatever, I would actually have some kind of scheme where I'm retaining that talent in the NHS as it is and doing some kind of conditional write-off of their debts.
I think that's right. I think for professions like that, you should have a deal. But for maths teachers, you should say if you're a maths teacher for a number of years, we'll write down the debt over years. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's the thought, isn't it? Spending taxpayers' money, more of it, on university fees. How do we get all this taxpayer cash then? Another idea that's been floating around: windfall tax. BP have announced their profits today. It's got people up in arms demanding that they pay more. How much more? See you in 2.
Hello, good morning. I'm Marco Petagna. Here's your latest weather forecast from the Met Office. We'll hold on to some showery weather across the UK for the time being, but things will turn drier during the week ahead and there'll be some warm sunshine at times too. The showers are all down to low pressure being located fairly close by to the UK at the moment, but notice a build of pressure as we head into the early part of the coming week, and it's that promises to quieten things down. As for the conditions this morning, well, it's a pretty showery start to the day across many western and northern parts of the UK. Some of the showers on the heavy side, 1 or 2 thunderstorms around too. Those showers start to become more widespread as we go into the afternoon, particularly heavy across Northern Ireland. Here we could see some torrential downpours, I think, whereas the southeast of the UK tends to hold on to the best of the dry and bright weather throughout the day, staying mostly dry, I think, here into the evening. We'll also see the best of the temperatures towards the southeast in that sunshine, climbing into the high teens. Best temperatures around about 18 or 19 degrees. 19 is 66 in Fahrenheit. Always a bit cooler though towards the northeast of Scotland. And as we go into the evening and through the overnight period into the early hours of Monday, those showers tend to transfer their way eastwards across the UK. So some showers developing across the southeast there as we head into the early hours of Monday. Whereas out towards the west and northwest, we'll start to see some clearer spells as those showers start to ease down. But wherever you are, with a fair bit of cloud still lingering there, temperatures holding up in the range 7 to 11 Celsius. As for Bank Holiday Monday, well, a fair few showers still likely across some central and eastern parts of England, 1 or 2 on the heavy side, and a bit of showery rain notice there moving into the far north of the UK too, parts of northern Scotland, seeing a fairly damp day on Monday. But elsewhere it's a quieter picture, less in the way of showers, more in the way of bright weather too, and feeling more comfortable, I think, with temperatures doing fairly well in the bright spells, into the mid to high teens Celsius. Again, we could see a high of 19 or 20 degrees towards the south, but still quite chilly up towards the far north east of Scotland. As for the outlook, well, into Tuesday and Wednesday, pressure starts to rise. We see a bit more in the way of sunshine, certainly on Tuesday, but notice towards the north of the UK there by Wednesday, we could see some more cloud developing. That's it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, live outside of Buckingham Palace this evening. Joining me until 7 o'clock tonight, my panel, Quinton Letts, is a political sketch writer for The Times.
7 o'clock we're here till.
Yes, and John McTernan, you should have charged double. Political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair.
Time flies on this show.
It does when you're having fun, doesn't it? I'll tell you what else flies as well, all my notes. The wind has just picked up everybody and off they've gone. How does Scotland pay for free uni and prescriptions, Michelle? They were still part of the UK the last time I looked. That says Gary. Matt says, my daughter is doing a degree in law and of course is an absolute jerk. It won't, he says, prepare her for her career going forward. Thomas, my experience of people with degrees in the workplace is that the majority of them don't want to get their hands dirty. They only want to do office jobs, he says, so that they can delegate work to people because they found themselves superior. Don't know, that's a view. Certainly is, sir.
Scotland pays for tuition fees by not letting Scottish kids who've got the ability go to university. They ration the places and sell places to English students who they make pay English fees. So they run them as a profit.
Well, that told you, Gary, didn't it? Right, let's talk about profits then, shall we? Moving on to a different sector, BP. Their profits have apparently reached £4 billion in Q1 this year. I tell you, it's got him moaning and groaning already, John McTernan. Of course, you know it by now, don't you? People will say it's hideous. They'll go round in circles. We want harsher penalties, more windfall tax. John McTernan, what say you? Do you think that we have to charge these companies even more?
When you have a windfall profit, I think a windfall tax is fair. BP haven't done anything to increase their productivity, to increase the resources they've found. They've just been selling oil and gas during a period of a global crisis, a war in Europe, that has shifted the market
Right,
price.
what do you want them to pay, John?
Well, more.
Yeah, but don't just tell me more. What percent do you think is fair and equitable on these UK profits?
I would tax them till the pips squeak.
No, you
I'd
wouldn't.
take it up to
How much?
90%.
So you would charge, so you think that a company is going to be incentivised to go
back to
out and
Dennis
do its
Healy.
work for 10%?
This is excess profits they're making, so you're taxing the excess profits.
And what about when they make losses?
They make
credits?
normal profits. They get loads of tax relief against their losses. They get loads of tax relief against the costs of decommissioning the rigs that are out in the North Sea.
But you're going to de-incentivise investment, aren't you, though, John? If you start saying to people, do you know what, you can make 10% of your profit, you can keep 10% of your profit.
Do you know what I saw?
You're going to de-incentivise investment.
This morning I was looking out of my office window, and on Southwark Bridge Road I saw some Just Stop Oil demonstrators walking slowly up across Southwark Bridge.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe. I believe we shouldn't be incentivising oil production. We should be incentivising leaving oil and gas in the ground.
Well, I think you should be incentivising
see
proper policing, by the way, to get them pillocks off the road so that everyone else can go about their daily business.
Pillock.
But anyway...
Technical term.
Yeah, yes, very good. Quinton, what do you make to the windfall tax?
I'm surprised that BP don't have more creative accountants and they haven't managed to find a way of writing off these surpluses. But I suspect that higher taxes always get passed on to the motorists or to the consumers in the long run. I don't want to pay more for my petrol, and so I don't think that's going to work. Also, these profits are on last year. I suspect next year's profits may be a lot lower. And I don't necessarily want more taxation. To me, taxation is a nuisance, and I like to see less of it rather than more of it. I think if you're always sort of beating up the companies, then in the end the companies will stop creating jobs and employing people.
And do you not worry about that? So you've got in your world, you've sent 75% of people to university, so they've all come out with a load of debt and all these qualifications. But if the companies are not expanding, employing more young people, it's pointless going to all these degrees.
Well, fossil fuels are the fuels of the past, but they're causing the problems of the present.
But you've still got to have them for a bit for the transition period.
But we should be moving faster to transition out. We should have.
Fast.
We were talking in the break about we need more nuclear power stations. We do need a different energy mix, and I think there's lots of good quality jobs from construction through to running.
But to Quinton's point, that takes time to develop, to create, and all the rest of it. It doesn't happen tomorrow.
No, there will be a transition, but we shouldn't be sentimental about the energy companies. They're not sentimental about us. They're not sentimental when they raise the price at the pump. They're not sentimental when they leave an environmental mess behind them in the different countries they go to.
And what about all the people that have got their pensions invested in places so just for transparency, I've got some shares, for example, in BP.
Well, you must be doing well then.
I've done all right, actually.
Yeah, you do well.
Recently, yes. I don't have many before you all start trying to ask I'm a single and can you become kept men under the back of me? We're not talking that level of shares,
Michelle,
by the way,
there is a political angle to this in that the windfall tax is the left's, Bernie the Bolt's only arrow. They keep producing this. It's their only policy for sorting out all the problems and all the spending problems. They all say, oh, we're going to do this windfall tax. They've spent it hundreds of times. And so that is the political sort of nature of this policy.
And then it's adopted by the Tory government.
Yeah,
was.
It's not really a Conservative government, is it?
And in case you're wondering, by the way, what do these people pay now? I think the rate is about 75% now on these kind of profits. So that's what we're talking about at the moment. So they do already pay a heightened corporation tax.
And McTernan wants it to go up to 98%?
No, I said 90, but I could go to 98 on excess profits.
You'd go to 98.
They keep the normal profits. The normal profits won't pay the dividends.
But what's the difference between an excess profit and a normal profit?
It's a windfall. It's an unexpected, unplanned,
there's no definition
created by external.
Right, so let me ask you this then. So if you're in favour of, you've got this windfall, unexpected, unplanned boost, so therefore take it. If there was the reverse of that, so there was an unexpected, unplanned decline, which led to losses, would you follow your own theory then and compensate those companies?
People don't pay tax on losses. That's why Quinton was right. Why are they not clever accountants around these big oil companies?
But if things have affected a balance sheet to the negative that they had no control over, so i.e. things like the COVID pandemic where everyone and everything was shut down.
We bailed out lots of private enterprises.
But then do you not think then that you should be stepping up and compensating those losses?
We have to get money out of everywhere we can to invest in the health service, to invest in to invest in schools, to actually alleviate the energy and fuel poverty that's real in the country at the moment. And for BP to have this level of profit, this obscene level of profit, at a time when there are people who can't afford to put on their heating.
By the way,
in their
only
homes.
about 10% of BP profits comes from the UK, by the way. Often what people do is they'll take an organisation's global profits and then start talking about it as though it's here in this country, and it's not.
They'll just move their staff elsewhere. They'll move their operation different part of the world.
Do you not worry about that, John?
Well, they've done a back and forth between here and Amsterdam, and they're back in the UK now. I think people headquarter themselves in countries for lots of reasons.
If you look back, by the way, in 2021, UK pension funds, which is what I was talking about a minute ago, they had apparently £128 billion invested in fossil fuel companies, equivalent to about £2,000 per person.
But they're getting out of fossil fuel companies because they're
Yeah, I know, but the point is, if you've got a pension fund, you want and need that pension fund to grow over time. If you start battering people's profits, dividends, all the rest of it, then you're going to compromise that.
You can be sure that BP will take a big stand at the Labour Party conference this autumn.
Well, actually, you say that.
That would be a windfall for the Labour Party.
You say that, and before I go to break, you mentioned Just Stop Oil, by the way, and it came out over the weekend, didn't it? The huge sum. Was it Dale Vince? I think one of the founders. One of the founders. I've called them worse than that, I can tell you, but I can't repeat it because it's tea time. There'll be kids watching. But wasn't it Dale Vince, by the way, that was shown as investing quite a lot in the Labour? Was it Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner? Didn't that come out this weekend?
Yeah, but they support progressive. I mean, Just Stop Oil are progressive in their
disruption.
politics, and they support progressive politicians.
They support the disruption of people trying to go about their daily graft, the workers, people trying to get to hospital.
They don't stand a chance against our muscular police, do they? Look,
they wouldn't stand a chance. They would not stand a chance when face to face with me if they tried to block my car. I can tell you that for free. Right. Anyway, it's a quick break. When I come back, I'll come back with some of your thoughts. These two, I'm going to get you a room.
Sorry, we won't pay
I'm
attention.
done with it. You don't need to pay attention because I'm going to a break now. When I come back, I want your thoughts on the topics we've been discussing, but I also want to ask you about the royals. They've told you who their favourite royal member is. Who is yours, and how excited are you about the coronation this weekend? Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, keeping you company till 7 o'clock tonight from outside this beautiful location. The sun is shining. We are indeed outside of Buckingham Palace. Quinton Letts keeps me company, the political sketch writer for The Times, as does John McTen, the political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair. There's lots of love for you two as a duo tonight. Again, I think that might be coming from your family members. I'm not sure, but people are appreciating it.
I'm the eldest of 7, it could well be.
Yes, people are appreciating it. I've had lots of tales from you guys getting in touch as well about universities, whether or not they're worth it, whether you should just do apprenticeships and all the rest of it. Carol says, my 2 sons didn't go to university, but they both worked. By the age of 28, each of them, she says, own a property, they have a car and a full-time job and all the rest of it. They have enough to meet their needs. There's a lot of people getting in touch telling me that. Do you think there's a snobbery about apprenticeships, John?
I think there is amongst some people. And
are you one of them?
No, when I say 75% of people go to university, I do include university level qualifications. So an apprentice at level 4, whatever they call it nowadays, and an HND and all of those other forms of qualifications. I think the distinction between apprenticeships, training, university, all the things, that should be melted together.
University
much more.
Isn't for everyone, is it? My son dropped out of university in his 2nd term, and then he went to China and he learned Mandarin, and he's much more employable now.
Yeah, yeah.
And is he in China? Is he back?
No, he's back here now, and he works in Birmingham, using some of his Mandarin.
But I couldn't think of anything. I was itching to get out of school. I wasn't in there half as long as I ought to have been, and I literally couldn't wait to get out the door. The thought of someone then saying to me, right, young lady, you've now got to sit in even more classrooms and learn even more things. No, thank you very much. I wanted to be out and about. No, I just wanted to be out and about, earning money. I just thought to myself, I'm going to learn a lot more getting in there, getting my hands dirty, than sitting and learning about how to do things. But I do accept that my lack of qualifications made life harder for me. I had to tell some fibs, which I don't recommend, by the way, initially in my career until I got my foot on the ladder. But real division there. Not a lot of people agreeing with your 75%. Peter says 75% of people going to university is ridiculous and the most stupid suggestion I've ever heard. You need to get out more.
Listen to maternal.
Exactly. I've got many more where they come from.
It's a ridiculous suggestion, but you clearly don't watch him enough, because that is not one of his worst. I could tell you that for free. No offence. Yeah. Megan, of course. Lots of you saying, by the way, that you said that basically that they are now exiled from the royal family. What people are pointing out is they're not that at all. What they are is people that decided to leave for privacy while simultaneously milking everything possible to do with the royal family for their own wealth. Not much love, I have to say.
Standing on their own 2 feet. They've built a business.
No, they're not standing on their own 2 feet. They're standing on the legacy of their royal family connection. If they want to stand on their own 2 feet, they would disown the royal family and they would just be Harry and Meghan and get on with their business.
Prince Harry was clearly traumatised by the death of his mum and by her being chased by the media and things. Like, I think...
but no one denies that.
He's trying to work some of this stuff out in public, and
I wish he wouldn't.
Susan says, how slimmed down do you want the monarchy to be? We've slimmed down already. Do you know how many working royals there are in the royal family? Don't look over my page at the answer. Do you know how many there are? Technically regarded working royals.
Maternal, he knows everything about the royal family.
How many?
I don't know.
This is going to be a long show, so I'll cut to the chase and I'll tell you the answer, else we'll be here all day. We'll cut into the next programme. 11.
11, yeah.
Did you get that right at home? Did you? 11 working members of the royal family. Apparently, of course, you'll be familiar with most of them. King Charles, Queen Camilla.
The rest just lays around.
Duke of Gloucester.
Yes, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, Prince Edward, Princess Alexandra, Prince and Princess of Wales, obviously, Edinburgh. Yeah. Yes, there you go. Anyway. 11. So, yeah, to be fair, I'm not sure how much you can slim down. Annie says, those who want to ditch the monarchy for the Republic mistakenly think that they will get more money in their pocket. This myth needs calling out. Consider it called out. Some people are saying that the royals should have paid for their own coronation. What do you say to that?
It's such a big event, and it is a big draw for tourism. It's
a
big investment.
If they paid for it themselves, it would have been wine and cheese in Windsor Castle.
And Audis.
And Audis. We're already
reduced
to Audis. Smoking old diesels.
And many more vegan quiches.
Max wants to go a step further. He says the Duchy of Cornwall should pay corporation tax. Should they? Yes? No?
Maybe.
Do I feel strongly about that?
Look at him. I mean, what? So it's maybe you think that the Royal should pay corporation
He's suddenly gone wet on tax. 98% for PP, maybe.
Exactly.
That's your call.
Backtracking. It's backtracking. Dave says, can you ask McTernan, would he put a windfall tax on the billions being made from wind and solar?
Yes.
Would you?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most egregious loopholes that's been allowed. They're getting the same price that gas went up to, and their cost base hasn't changed at all.
Russell
it's a definition
says,
of a windfall.
why isn't anyone giving credit to things dependent on petroleum extractions, the plastics, clothing fibres, etc., etc.? He says it's not just all about petrol and diesel. Look at this, everybody. The time.
That's a very good point.
There you go. He just said you've made a good point. I'm going to end on
buttons.
that note there. One of my viewers making a good point, and that is what we like to see. What a fantastic night I've had tonight. I've enjoyed the company of you two.
We've enjoyed it.
Susan, I said at the start I'd make a judge at the end.
We've had a blast.
He can come back. I'll let him back again if he wants to. We've been live from Buckingham Palace. The sun is shining. What an absolute treat. And the treats do not stop here, everybody, because in just a few minutes, don't go anywhere, because get this, the part 2 of the documentary The Crown, a 1,000-year story with David Starkey is coming up. Do not go anywhere. If you need to go somewhere, get us on your radio. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Hello, good morning. I'm Marco Petagna. Here's your latest weather forecast from the Met Office. We'll hold on to some showery weather across the UK for the time being, but things will turn drier during the week ahead, and there'll be some warm sunshine at times too. The showers are all down to low pressure being located fairly close by to the UK at the moment, but notice a build of pressure as we head into the early part of the coming week, and it's that promises to quieten things down. As for the conditions this morning, well, it's a pretty showery start to the day across many western and northern parts of the UK. Some of the showers on the heavy side, 1 or 2 thunderstorms around too. Those showers start to become more widespread as we go into the afternoon, particularly heavy across Northern Ireland. Here we could see some torrential downpours, I think, whereas the southeast of the UK tends to hold on to the best of the dry and bright weather throughout the day, staying mostly dry, I think, here into the evening. We'll also see the best of the temperatures towards the southeast in that sunshine, climbing into the high teens. Best temperatures around about 18 or 19 degrees. 19 is 66 in Fahrenheit. Always a bit cooler, though, towards the northeast of Scotland. And as we